Today's daily LeetCode problem today is reverse substrings between each pair of parentheses, number 1190. For this problem, we're given a string S that consists of lowercase English letters and brackets, and we want to reverse the strings in each pair matching parentheses starting from the innermost one. So our output should not contain any of the parentheses. So each time we come across one of these sets of parentheses, we flip the string. So we flip it once, and then we come across the second pair of parentheses, so we're going to flip it again. So even though it seems like love would be backwards, it's not. It would turn out I love you. So for this problem, we can use string builder because that will allow us to flip strings, as well as a stack. A stack will allow us to store all of our previous characters and stuff interacted with between the parentheses. So first thing we want to do is initialize an integer I, which is going to be public to all of our methods. That way we can iterate through our string length without worrying about what method we're in. Then we simply want to return what we're going to call it our helper method. And we're going to pass it s.toChar array. So it's going to turn the string into a character array. Then we can initialize our private method, which is going to return a string called helper, and it's going to receive a character array s. So we're going to initialize our string builder called SB, and it's going to be a new string builder. And the reason we're using a string builder is because it allows us to easily reverse and add words and characters to our ultimate output. And then we're going to set up a while loop. While I is less than s.length, char current is going to be equal to s of I plus plus. So we're going to iterate through using our public integer I. So it's going to increment 1 because our first character is always going to be the first parenthesis. And if current is equal to a close parentheses, then what we're going to do is we're going to return our string builder, reverse it, and set it to string. So we're going to return our string builder reversed and to a concluded string. Otherwise, so else if our current character is equal to an open bracket, we are going to continue. So we're going to do string builder dot append, and we're going to call back to helper of s. So that's why we are using a return here, is because this is going to be a recursive method. So each time we see an opening parentheses, including our first opening parentheses, we're going to call to helper, and it's going to create a new smaller substring. And that's why I is a public integer. That way we can recursively go through this without worrying that I is changed. Then we're going to have a final else. And this is in case that we don't come across either of the parentheses, and it's just going to be string builder dot append our current character. Ultimately, when we break our while loop, when I is equal to string length, we're going to return our string builder dot to string. So if we run this, pass our test cases, and if we run the solution, it passes all solution. Now for Python. So for the solution in Python, we can take a different approach because, well, we have the opportunity to modify the string using just normal strings in Python. But first thing we want to do is define a list. So we're going to call a list sub, and that's going to be equal to list of s. So we're going to turn string s into a list once again. And then we're going to define an integer I once again, which is going to be the length of sub minus 1 to prevent going out of bounds, and a while we still have opening parentheses in sub. We're going to do if sub of I is equal to an opening parenthesis, then for j in range I to length of sub. So going to the end from the first parenthesis we see to the very end of the string. If sub of j is equal to a closing parenthesis, then sub of I plus 1 to j is equal to sub of I plus 1 to j of -1. Then we can go ahead and do sub dot pop j and sub dot pop I, which remove the closing and opening parentheses. And this right here simply just flips the string around. So we define what string we have between the opening and closing parenthesis, and then it flips it so it's in reverse, how we want to, since we just found a new string. And it will continue to do this until we go throughout the entire list. We then simply want to break out of this inner loop as we found our solution. And then we're going to do I minus equals 1 because we're going to be traversing from the end of the list to the beginning of the list. So we find the innermost parentheses first. Then we're going to return a string. The string is going to be equal to if we join together our subarray of characters. If we run this, passes our test cases, and if we submit it, passes all solutions.